Hi Caroline, this is just a quick video to show you the what we did in class on Wednesday. So you'll have been sent a couple of worksheets to look at for next week. So what we did first of all on Wednesday was we looked at this worksheet here. Okay, you can see it's a circle and it's broken up into different fractions. Okay, so for example, this one here is broken up into thirds. This is 1/3, this is another third, and this is the third. And all you do with this is you write in the fractions on each of the circles, okay? Now, I've also sent you the answers, I think, but it looks like that, okay? So nothing very complicated, all right? And the idea of this is that you get used to the pattern that each of the fractions creates in the circle. And a couple of observations are important here. When we talk about fractions, say if we take this circle here, which is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, so that's sixths, each of those 6 parts are equal. Okay, that's very important in fractions. You're talking about breaking something up into equal parts. So for example, if I broke our circle here up into 6 parts and I divided it in half, and that was 1 part, say half over here, and over here I broke this side up into 5 parts, you still have 6 parts, but they're not 6 equal parts, okay? So that wouldn't be sixths. So I just want you to write in what each of the fractions are, and you can count the number of pieces that each circle, I should say, is broken up into. Okay, so when you've done that, I'm just going to show you a picture of the board that we had the other day. Just give me a second now till I find it. Here we are, this one. Okay, now this is a little bit all over the place because, as you know, I go over and back to the board. But when you've done this exercise, there's 2 observations that you should be able to make. The first one is that the number on the bottom got bigger each time. So we followed a sequence. The first circle wasn't broken up at all. Second circle was broken into 2 pieces. Sorry, that's the answer sheet. Let me get the plain one for you. Third circle was broken up into 3 pieces, and so on and so on. So that's one observation. And the other observation is that as the number on the bottom of the fraction gets bigger, the fraction that it makes gets smaller. So, for example, if we go down to the end here, you can see we have a lot more pieces in our circle, but they're all smaller. And you will be able to tell me what fractions they are when you're finished. Okay? The second thing that we did was a fraction number line here, and this follows on from last week, and the circle activity that you've just done will help you here as well. And all it's asking you to do here is to fill in the missing fraction number lines. Okay, so you can see we're missing something here. Okay, so what you do here is you look at from 0 to 1, how many pieces has the number line been broken into? And you can see in this one it has 1, 2, 3 different parts. Okay, so it's broken into thirds. So here's 1/3, this will be 2/3. Okay, and you just fill in, excuse me, you just fill in the rest of that sheet, okay? The answers are below, but try and do it without looking at the answers first, okay? The other thing that we talked about when it came to this sheet is that you'll notice that, for example, when you fill in this line and this line, that this part here actually is the same as this part here. Okay, in terms of the length, say from 0 to 1, and from 0 to this line here, and from 0 to this line here, okay, that they're the same amount, okay, but you're going to call it a certain fraction up here, and you might call it a different fraction down here. So I just want you to see if you can see that, okay. Likewise, this is the same as this is the same as this, okay. So while you might call your fractions different things, if we take this example here, this is 2/4, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. This is the first quarter, this is the second quarter, okay? So we've called that 2/4. You can see on the bottom one here, in the same position, we have a fraction called 3/6, okay? So it's a different name, but actually they have the exact same value, and that's called equivalent fractions. So it's a very important concept in fractions to understand, that you can have values that are the same, but that are called something different. So 2/4 is the same as 3/6. Okay, and I want you to see what other fractions you can find on that worksheet that will give you the same value. Okay, and I'll give you a bit more explanation next week because it's kind of hard to explain when you're not face to face. I do mention that on the board here. Let me just go up here. Just so you recognize the word, equivalent fractions is what we call those. Fractions that are using different numbers but actually have the same value. If this is confusing you, don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it again next week, but I just wanted you to know about it. Okay? Now, the next thing that we did was a couple of pages from our Educate resources about patterns. Okay, we've been looking at patterns for the last 2 weeks, patterns in relationships and so on. And what you've got here is a mixture of different patterns, okay? So it's finding and understanding patterns helps us in everyday life. Patterns can help us predict the future. For example, the weather. The weather is just a series of patterns that people who are trained to look at them and understand them, they can interpret them and tell us what our weather is going to be like to a certain degree of accuracy. They help us to discover new things and understand the world around us. And our brains like patterns, okay? They can help us make sense of things. So we just had a chat about these, the different kind of patterns in here that we noticed. Some of them are what we call natural patterns, so they occur in nature, and some of them are man-made patterns, okay? So things that we have made, that people have made, okay? And another one that you'll see there is your calendar. We've divided our time, our year, our days, we've divided them all into a pattern that we understand and which repeats. So we have 7 days in every week. Can you imagine how confusing it would be if we didn't have 7 days in every week? If we had 7 days in 1 week and 8 days in the next week, it would be very hard to organise your maths class if that was the case. So we can talk about a bit more about those when you come back, because that's really just a bit of a conversation. But an important concept to understand there is that some of these patterns are natural, like the bunch of grapes or the feathers, the design of the feathers on the peacock, this feather here, and then many of the patterns that we create are man-made. Okay, so here's our traffic light system. It is usually a certain pattern, red, orange, green. A stack of books, somebody has made that stack of books, okay. The light bulb, you can see it's a screw-in light bulb, so it's got this kind of spiral pattern on the base of it, and so on. All right. So going to the next page then, it's asking you, do you recognize these common patterns? And you've got a list. The list is up here, okay? Basket, water, car, wool, pasta, kebabs, a barcode, bedding, web, cacti, a shop, and fence, okay? And it's just, we just talked about the different types of patterns that we have here. So some of them are natural, like water. Some of them, and say the cactus, that would be natural. The clownfish here, it's not mentioned up there actually, but it's there. And then you have man-made patterns like the chain link fence or the pasta here. We have what we call linear patterns. Linear patterns basically mean straight lines. So like the duvet and the pillowcases here, the bed linen, that's a linear pattern, as is the barcode down here. Whereas, let's see, the kebabs here, okay, the shapes in there aren't necessarily linear, okay? So straight lines, actually that's a better example, the pasta. There, the shape on the pasta isn't linear, it's not a straight line, okay? It's like a spiral. So it asks you to write these in order here. I wouldn't worry about the order. I would just pick out the ones that match here and write them down, make sure you can recognize them, okay? Sorry, did I go too far down, page up? I didn't. Okay. The next one is just a matching activity, okay? So it wants you to match the types of patterns and pictures. And it says up here, you know, there are many types of patterns. For example, your name is a pattern of letters. Your phone number is a pattern of numbers. Your air code is a pattern of letters and numbers. There's lots of different ones, okay? And you've seen some of them on the previous page. So here you just have to match the types of patterns and the pictures. So have a go at that, okay? If you don't understand some of them, that's fine. Just do your best and have a go. And do the ones that you find easy first and cross them out. Or draw an arrow, I should say, to their from the description to the actual pattern. Do the easy ones first and then finish with the rest of them, okay? And in this page, there's a lot of number patterns. You can have a look at the pictures there and see if you recognize what these are. You'll know most of them, I'd say. And then the last page that we did is where you're going to label these patterns. So it's similar to the previous exercise back up here, this one here, but now you're going to put the label in, okay? And you're given the labels at the top, all right? So again, do the ones that are obvious to you first and then figure out the rest of them, okay? And then you can draw your own pattern if you want and tell me what kind of pattern it is. So that's it for this week. Hopefully we'll see you next week and we'll do some more work on the portfolio. Okay, that's all. Thanks a lot, Caroline. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.